Hi, and welcome once again to Unstoppable Mindset, where all sorts of things can happen. Because if you've read the tagline, you know that Unstoppable Mindset is where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected meet. We get to deal with some of that today. I just learned something. Our guest is Jonny Imerman, and Jonny likes Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, and that's as good as it gets. So he's got to be a normal person, right, Jonny?
No doubt. Well, I'm just trying to be half as fun as Michael Hinkson. If I'm doing that, I'm doing something right.
Jonny has started several nonprofits in his life and has a story to tell that I think is second to none. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about you and the story and all the other things that go into your life. So let's begin. So Jonny, welcome. And why don't you tell me a little bit about you, your growing up, your life history, and we'll go from there.
Awesome, Michael. Well, thank you so much for having me, man. Great to chat with you. You're such an easy guy to get to know, that's for sure. And thanks for all you do and Accessibility does to help people that have challenges and have disabilities. I mean, it's a beautiful mission, and just glad to be a small part of the piece of this mission. So, quick background about me. I'm from Detroit area originally. Went to University of Michigan for college, and then just a few years out of Ann Arbor. I was 26. I'm hanging out with three guys and three girls. We're in a bar, shooting pool, having fun, typical Saturday night, nothing out of the ordinary. And all of a sudden, I had pain in my left testicle that was excruciating. It flipped on like a light switch. 1 second, I'm fine. The next second, I doubled over. I couldn't even handle the pain, and doubled over, basically a 90-degree angle. And my friends offered to drive me to the hospital, and a bullheaded 26-year-old male who's pretty foolish. I said, "Oh, guys, I'll figure it out. Don't worry. I don't want to ruin your Saturday night." And I waddled out of the bar because I didn't even stand up straight from the pain. And I finally got in the car and drove myself to the hospital. And basically, what happened was I had a doctor running his hands through his hair saying, "Listen, kid, I'm sorry you're in your 20s, but you have advanced cancer." And it turned out it was testicular cancer. Went right into surgery to remove the left testicle. And then after that, I had to bank sperm. Most of us are going to be sterile and can't have our own kids. And then the last step, I had a port surgically inserted into my arm for chemo. And then chemo was about 8 hours a day on average, Monday through Friday, the first week of every cycle of chemo. And that kind of obviously stopped me in my tracks, and kind of looked at life a little differently, and quit my corporate job at the end of that. And a group of young survivors and I met randomly, really, at the hospital at the end of it. And we all wanted to give back, and we wanted to find purpose and meaning in this crazy experience. And we started a nonprofit in 2005 called Imerman Angels, which is a free service where anyone fighting any type of cancer can meet someone who's already been through that same diagnosis and say, "Been there, done that, beat it. I know everything you want to know. I'll walk you through the fight. What questions do you have?" And the whole mission is this peer mentor program. No one fights alone. There's a survivor to help every single one of them who's sick in the fight today. Any type of cancer, anywhere in the world.
So one of the questions that immediately sort of comes to mind, being a curious soul, why did the pain literally just start, as you said, like turning on a light switch?
What they think happened, Michael? I do know. Testicular cancer is the second fastest growing cancer, and they think the tumor actually exploded a nerve. It was pushing through a nerve on the testicle, which caused pain. Now, the stats show that 1 in 10 people, 10% of people have pain with testicular cancer. So I was that 1 out of 10. So 9 others have no pain. And unfortunately, the 9 that don't have pain, like if you were anything like me, there was no way you were going to a doctor just to go. The cancer would have kept spreading up my body into my brain and taking my life. But thank God for the pain, because it forced me to go in, and it forced me to go have a doctor look at it, run an ultrasound, make sure what's going on there. But that's what happened. It's a fast growing cancer, and it burst a blood vessel and a nerve. And that's where the pain, that's what caused the pain. Good question.
I have a friend we haven't communicated for a while, but he was on the streets of Seattle talking to someone who he hadn't seen for a while. And this guy said, I just came from the doctor because I had to have a PSA test. And he said, my level was a little bit high. And they decided that maybe there's some prostate cancer and they're going to deal with it. He said, if you ever had a PSA test, and Jack was what, in his 40s or more? He said, no, never had one. No need to do that. And his friend said, yes, you do. Well, Jack went to the hospital or to the doctor's office and had a PSA test. His PSA level, instead of being like 1 or 2, was 27. And he was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer almost immediately. Never expected that, never had any symptoms. He was very proactive in terms of dealing with it, studying and learning alternative medicines and so on. The last time I checked, everything was in remission, which was really great. But still, you don't know. And there's value to those physicals and to doing tests.
Thank God that he got in there and found it when he did, because one thing about cancer, if you don't do anything or you don't know, it just continues to grow and it continues to get stronger and it continues to be more difficult to beat. So knowledge is power, and knowledge earlier is always better. And so wonderful he went in and yeah, you got to stop this stuff as early as you can, and you got to figure out what's going on in your body.
Well, I have a brother who we lost to cancer. It started out literally as breast cancer in 2011, and they dealt with it, but then he wouldn't follow through and continue to monitor. And a couple of years later, it came back. And by the time he dealt with it, it had metastasized, and we lost him in 2015, which is very sad. Sorry. But he made his choices. And I hate to sound cold, but it is really that. It's a matter of choice.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. It is, you gotta go in, you gotta get checked, you gotta know what's happening, because people ask me this all the time. They're like, well, didn't you feel a little bit of something before the pain? And I felt zero until the night in the bar when I felt the pain at that instant when the blood vessel burst or the nerve burst. And the cancer had already spread from my testicle, pelvis, abdomen, all my lymph nodes, behind my kidneys, almost to my lungs. And I felt zero. So just like your friend with, having a advanced and high PSA, he didn't know either. He didn't feel anything. No. So you got to go in regularly, once a year on average. If it's cancer's in your family, then you got to go even more often, maybe once or twice a year.
Well, I have not fortunately had cancer. Good. I had a gallbladder situation in 2015 that suddenly I felt pain, and literally it was a Thursday night, and all of a sudden it started to hurt, and I went, oh, this really is in the area where it might be a gallbladder. My father and my brother both had to have their gallbladders removed years ago. I didn't even think anything about it, but literally the pain, as you said, turned on. And so I went and we dealt with it, and the gallbladder was removed the next week with a totally different and amazing kind of surgery compared to what they went through, where they had a big scar and all that. This was all done through a laparoscopy and so on. And it was very, I won't say simple. No operation is simple, but it was very straightforward and was removed, not much of any kind of scar or anything. And so that's fine. We move on.
Glad you got it out. Okay. Wow, that really must be a genetic component. If your dad and your brother and you all had something with the gallbladder, thank God that's also knowledge, right? You knew from family that there was something with that organ, and then it comes to you and you jump right on it. I mean, knowledge is definitely power.
Yeah, knowledge is absolutely power. And the other side the other part of it is knowledge and power lead to, if you listen and think about it, they also lead to good choices. You can't deny it. None of us really should deny that kind of thing happening.
Yep.
So
that is the truth.
Well, tell me a little. So first of all, what were you doing corporate wise before you left your corporate job?
Oh, I used to work in commercial real estate and I wore a suit and tie every day.
Ah,
And
there you are.
yeah, very different world. At 26, 27, 28 through treatment. That's really when I made a lot of different decisions and what I wanted out of life. Really hung up the suit and tie for good. And at 28, we launched Imerman Angels, a nonprofit. And then later, we started a B Corp that actually makes T-shirts and hats. We're a very casual group. No more suits, no more ties. I own one suit. My goal is to wear it once a year or less. Hopefully, 0 times a year. That's the best, actually.
I don't mind a suit and tie. And when I speak, I wear a suit and tie, and I don't mind. And if I had to go back to wearing a suit and tie because I was somewhere where it was more the way of life, I could live with it. But I do enjoy mostly not having a suit and tie on and working from home. I love to tell people that it's really easy for me to get to work. I walk out one door of the bedroom and walk into my other door, which is my office, and there I am. And that's a lot of fun. But I think there's value in being around people when you can. And that's the operative part. It's like COVID, right? Everyone or so many people talk about Zoom tolerance and Zoom, not fear, but just fatigue and all that. And I'm sitting there going, why is that such a big issue given the alternatives? And again, it's choice.
Yes, yes. No, that's true. It definitely is. Sorry, I lost you for one quick second. I put it on mute. I apologize for the little background sounds here.
That's
but
okay.
I can hear you now.
So tell me a little bit more about Imerman Angels, and is it still around? What does it do? How long did you have it before you moved on to adding some other things and so on?
Absolutely. So, Michael, Imerman Angels, we started really 02, 03, but it was just a bunch of volunteer survivors. In 05, 06, we became a full 501c3 nonprofit. I lived in Chicago for 15 years before New York, so it's still based, in Chicago. We have 13 full-time people, and we manage this network that we've been very fortunate to recruit over 13,000 cancer survivors of all different types, brain cancer, lung cancer, to bone cancer in your arm, I mean, any type. And we manage the group, and we reach out to cancer centers, people all over the world who can find us, and we'll pair you up with someone who beat the exact same form of cancer, same age, same gender, same cancer, same everything. But yes, Imerman Angels is going strong, fortunately, and we're helping thousands of people a year. And the reason it works, Michael, is the gratitude of the survivors. They care, they want to help, they want to give back, they want to share their story because they're giving up their time and their energy for no pay and really nothing, no, publicity. They're doing this simply because they just want to give back and help other people.
So it is still running.
Yes, it is still running. Fortunately, we hired a CEO, and the CEO actually runs our organization for us. I'm involved every day, but it's more of like a recruiter now, and I'll do like some speeches for us and just anything on the outside. But the smart people are on the inside. So I just flip people back to the inside and let our team really handle it. But we've hired a really great team, and we have a wonderful CEO who runs the organization. We're grateful. We're the biggest group in the world of cancer survivors who are a community to mentor one-on-one. We're in over 115 countries that we can help people and have survivors in. So it is still going. If anyone knows anyone touched by cancer who's alone, somebody you care about, just send them to imermanangels.org and they can sign up online. Our team will reach out. We'll make sure that new survivors are trained who want to give back, and we'll help those that are sick who want to reach a survivor like them. But yeah, it's up and running and has been since 05, 06, really, as a formal 501c3 nonprofit. We got a great board and a passionate crew, very enthusiastic people, these survivors. But no one should fight without knowing someone who's actually been through this stuff before.
And Imerman is spelled
Imerman is spelled Imerman Angels. And I apologize, Michael and everybody, for a difficult name. My mom actually named this when she started meeting my survivor buddies. I was in my late 20s and I became buddies with all these young adult survivors, and we're all giving back and mentoring. And my mom's like, your friends are like angels. They're so selfless. They want to give back and help people. Why don't you call it Imerman Angels? And we just never thought we were going to take it this far, and it just kept growing and the need was so strong. That's why it's called Imerman Angels. My mom named it. Otherwise, would have picked something much simpler and easier and
I'll,
shorter, and kind of says what we do.
I don't think it's a difficult name at all. And it's a very accurate description of what you do. And I think that when you're dealing with an organization and you're naming it, you should name it with something that's relevant. So Imerman Angels is very apropos. So I'm glad that you're calling it that. And congratulations and God bless your mom.
Thank you, Michael, and you too. God bless you, man, and all the good work you're doing in the disability space. But we're really grateful as cancer survivors that we can do something to make a difference. These stories really can help people.
So you are doing this all over the world with all types of cancer. And do you find from time to time that you get new either kinds of cancers, or although you have a lot of people, new expertise that you didn't have before, since it's a growing organization?
Yeah, it's a really good point you bring up. We're always recruiting new survivors because there's so many different types of cancer out there, and there's so many rare people that get a rare cancer out there, and they're super isolated, and there's always new treatments. There might be a brand new treatment that wasn't here 3 years ago, but it is this year. So we have to have a survivor who's had that treatment, because when someone seconds to take that treatment, we need to know somebody who's actually had that treatment. So we're always recruiting, we're always talking to people, we're always finding new people. You never stop that. It's a recruiting machine. Every survivor can be a part of it and help. So we're constantly looking for more and more people. We have 13,000 people. We could have 13 million plus people. But they're all great and everyone matters. And it's such a good example, Michael, of the power is in the team, the power is in the community, right? And when all of us are working together with one big community, then everyone's going to find a match. But we don't know, is it going to be this person or that person today? We don't know. But if everyone's in the community and everyone's registered, then we can really help the most people.
How do you match people? So somebody goes to imermanangels.org and they sign up, and you said that somebody reaches out to them. What happens then?
So what happens then is they sign up online. It's usually the easiest way, or they can call us. They can do that too. But when people sign up online, the easiest way to do it, what we do is our team will call them or set up a Zoom if they're in, a country far away. We set up a Zoom. We chat with them. We get to know them. What kind of cancer do you have? Where are your fears? What treatments are you going through? Anything we can learn about them. And then we really ask them. That's really the kicker, Michael, is now who would be the best fit for you? Someone your age, someone that beat the same cancer, someone as both, someone your race, someone your gender. We ask people what would be the best fit for them. And then once we figure out what that is, then our team goes through this community, this big community online, and finds the best person in our system to match them with. And then we simply just make a very simple introduction. We say, okay, Mike, you're going through colon cancer stage 3. We know somebody that lives in Miami and they beat stage 3 colon cancer. His name's, Larry. You got to know Larry. He did it 4 years ago. He'll walk you through everything. But we use tech to manage the database, to basically have a community and know who our people are. But we make a very normal introduction. We talk to both sides, and then we send a joint email to get everybody connected in the end.
And then what happens?
And then, great question, Michael. It's up to them how they want to engage. It's totally up to them how they want to talk and how they want to engage. So, they may say, I they may say, I want to talk once a week. They may say, I just want to talk once in a while. They may want to email. They may want to Zoom. It's actually completely up to them how they want to interact. And we leave it very open. So it's very, very open to them. Usually the survivor is the one that makes the decision how they're going to talk and how they're going to connect. And that person, kind of molds to the person that's looking for support.
But the whole point is it is a support network. So it's not a medical thing where people give medical advice. Although, how do doctors get involved, and do people ever want to talk with doctors through the system? Does that happen, or is it more peer support?
Yeah, no, we get a ton of referrals from the doctors. You're exactly right. The doctors, nurses, social workers, they're the ones that send people to us. So that's where they come from, a lot of them. But you got to make friends with the docs. You got to convince the doctors that we have researched everyone. We've talked to everybody, and we know we really know our people, and we know the questions that they ask. And so it's really, it's got to be vetted. There's got to be training. We got to know all our people. That's really important, because if you don't have the buy-in from the doctors and they don't trust that these people who are sick are going to be able to, have a good experience, and we're not going to give them medical advice. We're just going to be friends and supporters and arm them with questions. Then you're not going to get the buy-in of the doctor. And we learned that, in the early days, we can't give medical advice. We coach that. We got to make sure that our mentors, are friends, sharing a lot, their story, they're supportive, they're loving, they're caring, they relate, they tell stories, they blaze the road, but they don't tell people what to do. It's always go to the doctor in terms of what treatment to take. It's a very important thing you bring up, because we're not doctors. We can't coach them on what they should take.
Do docs ever volunteer and become a part of the organization in that way?
Oh, definitely. We've had many doctors volunteer. We've also Michael, we've got a group. It's a board, really. It's a medical advisory board of doctors, nurses, social workers, and they're incredible. They're all over the country. They help us build our training manual. They help in a lot of ways, but no doubt about it. You got to have the doctors on your team. You got to learn from them. You got to figure out from them, what's important and how to make this thing work best. But you got to partner with the hospitals and the docs for sure.
How large is the staff?
13. We have 13 full-time people. Our budget's about $1.5 million a year. So we're, small, medium-sized nonprofit. But it's big enough to be able to manage the network so far. But of course, one day, we want to have more people where we can, be able to help more people, because we have to pay people full-time who answer the calls, who reach out, who do the trainings. That's a big part of our cost. Our biggest part of our cost is our people.
Yeah. And the database and so on obviously is a cost, but it's sensible, and it makes perfect sense that people are the largest part of the cost that you have to undertake. And you've got to pay people because people need to have support, financial support to be involved in this in one way or another as staff members.
That's exactly right. I mean, we pay people full time because they're going to be on the phones all day, and they're going to be helping people, comforting people, introducing them to other survivors, training new survivors, managing the database. Exactly. So it's not rocket science. It sounds simple, this one-on-one mentor program, but I will say there's a lot of moving parts. And sometimes somebody has a recurrence. Like, we have to know that if they're a registered survivor in our system, and then we want to reach out to them again to be a mentor, but last week they had a recurrence and the cancer's back. Like, you got to check in first before you hook them up together. There's a lot of moving parts, and you got to talk to people to learn who they really want to connect to. That can be tricky too.
Are the paid staff members cancer survivors, or necessarily not?
Some of them are. Now, we do have some. It used to be all of them in the beginning, They were all survivors. And then, sort of as we've grown, we have family members and caregivers. It's sort of a mix of a bunch of different people. We definitely do have some survivors on board. Yeah, absolutely.
But then you've got 13,000 volunteers, which, as you said, is also part of the moving parts of what you do.
Exactly. Managing them, keeping in touch with them, keeping them engaged when they're not mentoring. That is also a challenge that we have not solved. We do our best at keeping in touch with the people, but it's tricky. There's a lot of people in the system.
How did COVID affect what Imerman Angels is doing?
So COVID has been good for us in some ways. And I feel for all the families who've gone through COVID. It's been a crazy couple of years, but it's taught us that we can really work remotely. And our team right now is hybrid. There's a few going into the office in Chicago, but a lot of them are just staying home. So it's really taught us that we can work really well together without working together every single day. So it hasn't slowed us down. The part that's the craziest, Michael, is that fewer people have reached out during COVID than they did pre-COVID. And we think the real answer to that and the reason to that is because they simply had their families and they have people around them. So they were able to have more support. So I think they called us a little less often than they did before. And that was a little tricky. We were just surprised. We thought we were going to get a ton of calls during COVID, but a lot of people were with their families in their pod, and maybe they felt like they had more support. So they just simply didn't call us as often. But that's all coming back now. And I think numbers are going to come back up to where they were before.
Yeah, because in some senses, at least with the immunity or with the extra strength that vaccinations offer, more and more people feel comfortable about going out a little bit more.
Exactly. That's for sure. And things like cancer, you do have an immune deficiency. That's right. I mean, you got to be really careful. If you have cancer and you're on chemo and your white blood cell count's down, and then now you get something like COVID, I mean, it can much more easily kill people. It's a tricky combination, those things together.
Yeah, it does make it a challenge. But you have a great passion for this, and you've allowed your passion to help you move forward and form Imerman Angels. And that's good because it's a need that needs to be filled. But you've moved on and you've also formed another organization. Tell us some about that, if you would.
Yeah, we have too. So we got excited, Michael, about spreading the word for Imerman Angels because the more we got the word out, the more survivors out there found us, joined the network, and started helping people. And we came up with this idea that nonprofits really make cheap $2 bright green t-shirts with way too much stuff on it that nobody wears this stuff. And we're like, we're going to make cool shirts that people actually rock in the city and talk about us and wear to the gym. And we learned if we did white on black, super simple, just the logo, enough to spark curiosity and spark a question on a really high quality t-shirt, that we could make it a movement, make it a brand, make it something you want to wear, and it's got to fit you well. And so we started making Imerman Angels white and black shirts, got our friends to rock them at the gym or a sports game or walking their dog in the city. And lo and behold, these conversations sparked and the word got out and it brought us everybody we needed, including donors and people that use the program, people that volunteer. And we started a B Corp. It's a company called Cloztalk, C-L-O-Z Talk. And cloztalk.com is our website. And basically what it is a one site where anyone can go and you can learn and search about all these hundreds of nonprofits that are out there, watch their video, learn their mission, get inspired, find something new to you. But then at the same time, you can shop right there on the site. Right when you like something, you say, I want to buy their hat, or I want to buy their t-shirt, I want to buy their hoodie. It's right there. And we make them on demand and we drop ship them right to you. About 4.5 days are average from order to arrival at your door. Everything we make is very high quality. It looks cool. It's all white on black or white on gray. And we want to inspire people to rock the logo of good causes rather than wearing a Nike swoosh or an Under Armour symbol, or Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that's okay if you want to rock that, but you could be great and you could rock a cause that actually helps people and that actually, gets movements out there. And it's a question that people are going to ask when they see in that shirt. And you can say, this is my favorite cause and this is why. And here's what they do. Because maybe someone who needs that program is going to hear about it because somebody else knows about it. It's all about awareness through apparel.
Well, to start the corporation, you obviously had to start learning and developing a knowledge about it, which says a lot about you, that you want to continue to learn and evolve. So, Mr. Expert, what is a V Corp?
Well, I don't know how my expertise, but I will tell you, I've learned a lot. So a B Corp is the highest level certification that your company, it is a business, but your for-profit company is a movement for social good. It's the highest level of ethics and the highest level of sustainability and social impact of anything out there. There's 1,500 B Corps in the US and about 3,500 outside the US, about 5,000 total. And it's really a movement of more sustainable, ethical businesses who care. So we don't make apparel and run Shopify stores and sell stuff for companies or sports teams or anyone else. It's all nonprofits. It's movements and causes that truly make the world better. Our packaging is 100% recyclable, things like that. We need to prove to become a B Corp that we care about the planet, we care about people, plants, pets, everything. We care about all these causes. We are in the mission of solving a social problem, but we still run it like a business. That's why it's a B Corp, not a nonprofit.
So it is actually, in some senses, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it is a profit-making company because it does have to support itself.
That is 100% true. We're not even profitable yet. So technically, I wouldn't even call it, it is a for-profit technically, but it's not for-profit for anyone yet because we're still trying to cover our costs and we're in year 4.5. But we've doubled sales between year one and year two, and year two and year three. And then 80% we increased between 3 and 4. So we're hoping this year to be able to cover our costs, Michael, and then we can make it a profit business where, we can live on it and be sustainable. Right now, we're living on savings, not going to last forever. So we're excited to make this sustainable and get to do what we love and drive this mission home that we love. And then once we're profitable, in addition to the branding for the causes and getting their logos on more bodies, 20% of our profits we donate to our causes. So we're also going to help fund them when we get there.
Are the causes all cancer related?
They're all over the board. So it could be helping people with disabilities. We have a group out of Chicago called Dare to Try, where anyone who's lost a limb, they teach you how to do tries. Any sort of physical disability, literally triathlons. We have groups that help animals. We have groups like Feeding America, which probably everybody knows, the second biggest one in the country, solving food insecurity. Could be anything, helping the homeless and anywhere in the United States.
So they're keeping you busy. How big are our sales, or is the cost right now? How big is the corporation?
So we have over 400 nonprofits, and the most that we've sold in a year, which we're on pace probably this year to do about 200 for Feeding America, 200 items. And that's number one. And number two and number three are probably around 180, 150 items for the year. So, and then some of the causes will only sell maybe 5 a year or so, something like that, much lower. So it's still lower than we want, but we knew that going in. We have to be creative to drive people to our site, to have them learn about vetted, trustworthy, great causes, but then also take the next step to buy. But our big idea to really get this thing going and help more causes brand better is we are getting companies who will now group buy for their employees, and they buy one item for every employee, and then every employee gets to pick their favorite nonprofit from our list. And then Jeans Day at work now becomes Jeans Day for purpose, because you're wearing a t-shirt or a hat for your favorite cause in addition to jeans. And now it's something, bigger than just Jeans Day, right? And so we're going to get many, many more companies who are going to invest in this, invest in their people and their causes. And it sparks conversations in the office about what's your favorite cause and why.
How does Cloztalk how do Cloztalk and Imerman Angels kind of interrelate to each other?
So Imerman Angels is on Cloztalk. It's one of our nonprofits that's on Cloztalk. So we have 400 plus, and any nonprofit, you got to be a 501c. You basically get a page on Cloztalk's site. So when you go to Cloztalk's site, you can search and find all these nonprofits, but Imerman Angels is one of them. It's one that we do sell on our site.
But they're separate organizations.
Totally separate books. One's a 501c3, Imerman Angels. Cloztalk is a B Corp. Totally separate books. Totally separate things. That's true.
How do nonprofits learn about Cloztalk?
So we reach out to a lot of them. We know quite a few because we've been in the space for almost 20 years. But at this point, we have the people that we do know are already with us pretty much. And we reach out. We're constantly asking our friends, tell us about great missions. Who should we be helping? Who should we partner with? So we use social media, word of mouth, LinkedIn. We find some great causes. Sometimes just reading an article and you read about a great new cause, and we're like, that's one we want on our site. We can help make the t-shirts cooler. So we do a lot. We pound pavement, we hustle. That's for sure, Michael.
Well, one thought I have, if you haven't connected, and I obviously haven't looked yet at cloztalk.com, but would be the National Federation of the Blind, which is the largest consumer organization of blind people, might be something worth looking at.
We would love to work with that organization. We don't yet. And I think we reached out to them, but we didn't know anyone there. So we haven't connected with them yet. But that's a wonderful organization. It needs to grow. And we want to make their t-shirts as cool as possible. And that's the goal. We can help them all. And again, I want to underscore, it's free for the nonprofits. They don't have to build the tech. They don't have to stock the inventory. They don't have to drive the traffic even. It's all on us to find ways creatively to drive traffic to our site so people can learn about these causes and do it. So that way, the nonprofit, if they want to promote it to their own people, they can, but it's never required. They can focus on their service and the mission. That's the most important thing for them.
Well, being a prejudiced kind of guy, I'm more of a polo shirt guy than a t-shirt guy. Are polo shirts available?
We do, Michael. We
good.
Have polos. So we've got polos.
I like polos with pockets.
There we go. We do. I'm wondering if there's there's not a pocket on polo, but we have looked at other polos to add a couple different styles, because the one we have now is like a polo, more of a golf shirt. And we are looking at doing some that are all cotton that might have a pocket on it, the ones we're looking at. But we're always adding new items. The store is the same store, 16 items right now for all of our causes, but we're always adding new ones on there. So we appreciate your feedback. We take all feedback, and that helps us get better. We just want to give them what they're going to wear. That's the goal.
Right in front of everyone, polos with pockets. But that's my prejudice. I just like those shirts. I like pockets on shirts. So
yeah, that's for sure.
That's me. But you continue to really evolve these corporations, and I would be interested to hear where you see both Imerman Angels and Cloztalk in 10 years.
Imerman Angels, we'd love to see hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of survivors in one big community giving back, helping people. That would be beautiful to see that happening, and just increasing the community, helping, hundreds of thousands or millions of people one day. And in 10 years, Cloztalk, we love to be able to walk out the streets of New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, you name it, And like 2 out of 5 people are rocking a hat or a t-shirt or a polo for a cause that they love. And we want to make it mainstream. You feel good about yourself. You feel like you're volunteering just by being you. You know, why wear a plain white shirt or a plain black shirt when you could be great? You could be rocking something that matters. That's our main vision that we see is this is going to be a mainstream thing for people to wear.
So how big is the Cloztalk staff?
Very small. My brother, myself, my brother's my best friend. It's him and me. And we have a third minority partner. So we haven't even hired anyone yet. And we're just grinding it out little by little, but we are going to hire hopefully sooner than later. You know, when we get some profit and we're able to afford that, we'd love to be able to hire more people to help.
Well, and you and your brother work well together. That's always a good thing.
We do. We get along great, you know, occasionally a little bit of heat in the kitchen, but that's part of it, you know, like any relationship. But overall, we see things very similarly. We both have the same goals. The trust is always there. And he's my best friend. So very lucky for that.
Have you had any other incidents of cancer or just the testicular cancer?
Testicular cancer, but after I finished all my chemos, Michael, I was clear. And then about a year later, at a checkup CAT scan, I found 4 tumors behind my kidneys, behind my spine, really, and in front of the spine, I guess I should say. And behind the kidneys, they were in a weird spot. So we had to go in through one more vertical incision, one more big surgery through my abdomen. It was 11 inches long from the sternum down to the pubic bone. And they had to move my organs out of the way, like pick them up with their hands and move them to get to the tumors, cut them out, put the organs back in, stitch the stomach muscle, and then 60 staples up and down vertically. So that was my last bout, 2003, is when it all ended. But yeah, it was a journey. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, cancer can come back. One thing I believe is when you're helping other people and you're focusing on your mentees, you sort of release fear of it coming back, and you don't think about it as much. You're not scared of it anymore because you're so focused on helping somebody that's really sick right now and doesn't know if they're going to make it.
Yeah. Has your brother had any experience with cancer?
Fortunately, no. You know, just as being a caregiver to me and my mom, but no, fortunately, both of them are okay. They've never had a problem. Thank God, they're totally safe. Yeah.
Which doesn't mean at all that he isn't empathetic and understanding. Clearly, he is, because the two of you work together and you enjoy each other's company, and that's always a relevant part to the process.
That definitely is. It takes a team, it takes a village to get through this stuff. It's not easy, but you get through it. But I think a lot of us feel like myself, if you're going to go through cancer, go through it young, and you have more of your life afterwards to live more enlightened, more with a focus, more with purpose. You want to make a difference. You want to be kind. You want to really look away at the end of life and say, how many people did I positively affect in my life? And I think a lot of us as cancer survivors, especially the young ones, that's how we think. What impact, what footprint are we leaving?
Are there any kinds of cancers that even when you diagnose them early, aren't things that you can stop, or can pretty much you say universally that if you catch it early, you can stop it and live a meaningful and long life?
Yeah, that's almost all cancers. If you catch it early, you can get it out from the roots. And that's the goal, is to get it out from the roots. So if you catch it early, that's the key. Now, there are some that are just difficult. It starts in the brain. It's just difficult based on the tissue around it. But if you still get it early and it's smaller, it might be a minor surgery or a little radiation, and you're able to save so much of the brain or all the brain and save someone's life. But early detection is key. Being aware of your body, going in if you feel something, those are all really, really important things.
I think we've kind of covered it, but still, what do you advise everyone to do regarding cancer?
Yes, we did talk about it, but go in, get checked once a year. If it's in your family, get checked more than once a year. Educate people, get your friends to go in. Like getting checked and making sure things are clear is the best way to save your life.
I will say from experience, I do go in, I guess it's now every 10 years to do colonoscopies, and people say how horrible they are. Well, the prep is a whole lot worse than the colonoscopy because you tend to sleep through it, but
yep.
it is such a necessary thing to do. And then every year we do Cologuard tests. My doctor has prescribed those, and I gather that's a pretty successful and meaningful way to potentially see a lot of cancers that might happen or rule out the fact that you have any.
Yes. Yes. I mean, again, knowledge is power. I'm glad you're on it, Michael. You're in the know and you're educated. I mean, the more you educate yourself on this stuff, that is truly how we save our lives.
Yeah, that's what we have to do
Yep.
in order to make sure that we take no chances with all of this, which is really important.
That's right.
So it's really exciting that you and your mission exists and are helping so many people. I don't remember whether you said the number, but how many people do you think you serve in the course of a year as people who come to you and say, I have this cancer, or I'm concerned about the cancer that I might have, and so on?
It's thousands of families reach out to us every year. It's somewhere on the ballpark of 3,500 to 4,000 families a year on average will find us and reach out. And we probably pick up about 1,000 new survivors every year and family members. I do want to mention, we do help the family members. Like, let's say it's someone who loses their spouse to cancer and they're only 30 years old and they have a small child. We can introduce that person to another person who says, oh, I'm 35. And when I was 30, I also lost my spouse to cancer and I have a small child. And here's how I got through it. Nobody should go through this alone, whether it's the caregiver or the person that's in the fight to a survivor.
So with all that you're doing, do most survivors that connect with you then become volunteers for the organization and are available, or
exactly
out of that 13,000 people are the people who have stayed with you?
Yes. I mean, the large majority of people who we help and hook them up with a mentor, they're going to beat it. And then they're going to say, I want a mentor. It's my turn now to give back. I'm in. And it's a beautiful thing. They care. They're grateful. They want to help the next person. That really is it's like an engine that kind of feeds on itself.
And it doesn't really get any better than that because you've got so many people who want to give back and do it. And, I would say the whole thing a little bit differently than you. I would hope that we find some cures for some of this cancer at some point in the near future so that the number of volunteers you have to have and the number of people who are involved gets to go down because cancer is less, but we're not there yet.
Yep. That's exactly right. We are not there yet. If you look at the stats, every year, Michael, the survival rate goes up 1%. So 40 years ago, it was about a 35% survival rate of cancer. 40 years later, today, it's about in the 70s. It's about 74, 75% of people who get cancer beat it. But every year, research and all the good work that they're doing in the lab and all the new treatments, it increases survival rates 1%. So eventually we are going to get there.
How much of the increase in survival rate comes from just the medical treatments as opposed to catching it early?
That's a good question. I don't know that exactly. I do know this, that if you get it early, you're way, way, way ahead of beating it. That is for sure. I don't know exactly, though. I mean, a lot of it, of course, has to do with new treatments. I know for my cancer, testicular cancer, it was in the 70s and before, 90+% of people died with this cancer. And in the late 70s, early 80s, a guy out of Indiana Hospital, Larry Einhorn, invented, created this chemo, and it really flipped the numbers. Now it's got to be something like 80-90% of guys with testicular cancer do beat it. Again, you got to get it early, but overall, 80 to 90% of them will beat it.
Which is pretty important and relevant to be able to address. But it's still, it's a complex solution. It's not just, oh, you can go get medical treatment. It is being aware, catching it early, and then dealing with it and not allowing yourself to go into denial.
100%. Catching it early, not going into denial. Being afraid to go to the hospital is a dangerous thing. We always say as survivors, the doctor's not going to give you cancer. You're not going to give it to you. You either have it or you don't. So you might as well figure it out now and find out, right? You got to know, but you're not going to get it. You're not going to catch it from going to the doctor.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Is cancer mostly genetic, or why do people get it? Is it just...
Most researchers, Michael, that I know, and I know quite a few over the years because they all send us patients, but they say it's 5% genetic, much smaller than most people think. 95% what we do, socio-environmental. And if you take that 95% and make that one whole pie, 2/3 of that is one thing, which is diet. And most of the researchers say that. It's just not known enough. But what we eat makes very logical to a lot of people, is going to filter into our bloodstream and become our bodies. So you got to eat as healthy as you can and as clean as you can, as whole foods, free from pesticides and chemicals. There's no doubt about it. That's the number one overall factor in something like cancer.
So what are good diets?
I don't want to impose my views because everybody chooses their own. But I will say, after everyone I've met and all the researchers I know, and most researchers I know, they are vegans. I've been vegan myself for 14, 15 years. I eat rice, beans, vegetables, nuts, fruit, and I don't do any meat. And there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of research, especially with colon cancer and colon stuff, that is just lesser chance of developing cancer, especially colon. But again, that's my personal views. If somebody likes a good burger, it makes you happy to eat a steak, I get it, or chicken or fish, whatever it is. I would just say this: if you love it, you just try to do it in moderation. And not do anything every day with meat.
But is it the meat, or is it the additives and the pesticides, or the other things that is put into the meat that's really the issue?
I personally think, and again, I'm not an expert, but everything that I've heard, it's a little bit of both, the animal protein, but it's mostly the additives, and it's what happens to these animals, antibiotics that they're pumped with, and things, because it becomes a business. And the bigger the animal, the more meat there is to sell. And unfortunately, that's how it is. There's a lot of stuff pumped in, and antibiotics or growth hormones or whatever to make the animals bigger. And with plants, you got to be a little careful still with things like pesticides and so forth.
But certainly, the issue is ultimately eat higher quality food, look for the food, whether it's meat or not, that doesn't use a lot of pesticides and so on. And that isn't guaranteeing that you won't contract, but your chances go up of remaining more healthy.
Yes, absolutely. Your chances go up. And if you're not sure, middle of the road. I mean, if someone's eating steak every day, 3 meals a day, I don't think that's a great idea personally for anyone.
Yeah.
But you middle of the road when in doubt, and you just try to lean, I think, on a more vegetable diet and as whole foods and as organic as you can.
I know my wife, Karen, and I tend to if we have meat, and we do some, but it's at dinner and we portion control it, and we are eating pretty high quality stuff as opposed to just going buying the best price at the store and things like that. But we for lunch, we usually eat nuts and cheese and fruit. And for breakfast, it's high-end oatmeal or a bagel, and with a little bit of butter on it. And so there are things that possibly could be improved, but by the same token, we're monitoring it pretty closely. And again, we go in for all the physicals and so on. But I think that we're very concerned about heart healthy. Karen has had some family members with it. And of course, I mentioned my brother and other things like that. So we're sensitive to it. And I think everyone should be sensitive to it.
I totally agree. I mean, what's more important than your health? And if you're not healthy, how can you help anybody else or take care of your kids or your family? You got it. You should be smart about it. No doubt.
Well, I think it makes perfect sense all the way around. I can't leave without talking about how we met, which was on a webinar with Accessible, which was a lot of fun. And is it Imerman Angels that uses Accessible?
We do. We're very grateful. So Cloztalk has it too.
Cloztalk has it too. Great.
Yeah, so Cloztalk has it too. And thank you, Michael, for all you do for Accessible and the Accessible team. They've just become friends, and I love the mission of an all-accessible internet for as many people as we can for 2025. I just think it's such a positive mission company, and it's really a B Corp minded company. And I'm rooting for you guys always. So love what you do.
Well, and we're having a lot of fun doing it, educating people, and there's a lot to learn about the internet, and we're learning a lot about how to communicate as well. But we do appreciate people like you who are out there who are using it and telling the world that, again, it's all about some social consciousness and what happens with Accessible. And Accessible is a very conscious company regarding the world. Accessible also makes itself available free of charge for nonprofits, which is really kind of cool.
Really, really cool. I mean, for any nonprofit in the disability space, I know they're totally free. And so we told a lot of our disability nonprofits about Accessible, and they signed up, and now they have an accessible website, especially because they're serving people with disabilities. So yeah, really good stuff there.
And whatever doesn't work with the access or automated widget, Accessible is there to help make the rest of it accessible too, which is part of the social consciousness of the organization.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great group, and they're passionate, and they're fired up, and it's a mission that matters. So what a great company to get behind.
And we got to meet you.
Yeah, I got to meet you, Michael. Your story is great, and I enjoyed watching you and your video and learning. I think it was the Monterey speech you gave. It was funny, and it was well done and informative, and your story and how you escaped the building. And I learned a lot from you. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It was fun to do the speech in 2019 and be able to continue to move forward. And we're having a lot of fun with Accessible. And as I said, getting to meet you and having a lot of fun doing this podcast. And we really love social-minded people who are on missions, especially because they make sense. And it could be that you've got a single-minded mission. That's okay. Or you go off in many directions. That's okay. As long as you do it and you recognize you're doing it for the right reasons. And that's what matters. Yeah,
that's it. If we all live that way and try to help others and be kind and affect people in a positive way, it's a win for everybody, right? Everybody wins together. Everybody benefits.
Should people be afraid of cancer? And I'm deliberate in asking about fear.
I don't think we want to live afraid of it. I think we need to think preventatively, though. You don't want to be reactive. You don't want to deal with cancer like I did. Once I had it, I was like, okay, now what do I need to do to get rid of it? You want to think preventatively, exercise, work out, lower your stress, sleep enough, eat a healthy diet, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't do anything to the body that's toxic. Those are the ways I think we live. And then after that, you can't really fear it, because if you're doing all those things or most of those things, then you got to live your life in freedom, I think, and try to enjoy it and not worry about it, because life is truly enjoyed in the moment.
And I think that's really important, that we've got to start fearing less. We've got to stop being so afraid, but be more strategic, analyze, be more people who look at what goes on during the day by taking some self-analysis time at the end of the day, and not being afraid of so many things, because fear, as I like to say, blinds you. And when that happens, you don't think straight.
Completely agree. Fear is kind of the opposite of joy in a lot of ways. If you want to be happy and you want to be in peace, you can't have it. You got to find ways to let it go. I totally agree. And fear does a lot of nasty things to people. It's not a great emotion. So we, the survivors, have put a lot of time into reducing our fear of our cancer coming back. And to us, the number one way to do that is giving back, helping other people, because you're not focused on your own self and your own fear, because you're helping somebody else who's sick right now. So through mentoring, through giving back, through taking the spotlight off yourself and on other people, that's how you reduce your fear. In the same way with something like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, sponsors will help the next person, and it gets the mind off themselves of going back into drinking, because you have a mentee that you got to help. You're responsible for somebody else. That's how I think you reduce the fear and you stay on a better path.
Well, Jonny Imerman, I really want to thank you for being on Unstoppable Podcast. And how can people reach out to you? You've talked about it some, but good to summarize it again. How can they maybe talk with you personally or reach out and learn all they need to learn?
Absolutely. Well, Michael, you are a pleasure, brother. It's great chatting with you again. And Imerman Angels, if you know anybody with cancer, it's IMERMAN Angels.org. If you forget that, just type in one-on-one cancer support mentoring or something like that, and we should pop up right away. And with Cloztalk, it's CLOZTALK.com, cloztalk.com. Like your clothes are talking for a good cause, sparking conversation in the word. You can go right to the website and learn about great causes that are out there to rock their logos.
Well, super. Well, thank you again for being with us, and you out there listening, wherever you are. We really appreciate you and would love to get your comments and feedback about this and Unstoppable Mindset in general. You are welcome to give us, and we appreciate you giving us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to the podcast. But also, you can email me directly at michaelhi, MICHAELHI, at accessibe.com, or go to www.michaelhingson.com/podcast, and Hingson is spelled HINGSON. And if you know of someone else who you think ought to be on Unstoppable Mindset, love to get those suggestions. We really appreciate hearing from all of you about who you think ought to be on the podcast. Some people we'd love to have on the podcast. We haven't been able to reach him yet, but it'd be fun to have Anthony Fauci on the podcast. Don't you think, Jonny? That'd be kind of fun.
Oh, that would be great, man. Getting him on would be awesome.
That would be kind of fun. But in general, we really appreciate any suggestions that y'all have. And I could come up with a whole bunch of names of people we'd like to have, but we really appreciate any assistance and support any of you can bring to bear in finding guests for us. We're grateful to do that. So thank you again for listening. And Jonny, one last time, thank you for being a guest on Unstoppable Mindset.
Michael Hingson, stay well, buddy. Keep up good stuff, man. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.